a great Indian nationalist, whom some of you will remember, fought alongside Gandhi and Nehru, called Rajagopalachari, in the first Indian cabinet in 1948, said, "When politics stumbles, the country pays." Part of the African problem is the quality of politics we have. Let us not shy away from it. That is part of our problem. And you know, that great American John Lennox Hendricks said, when we regained our independence in Africa, all African countries without exception adopted systems of governance that were alien to Africa, and he went on to say, no African country will ever succeed on those adopted systems. And the evidence is there for us to see. Each African country is moving from disaster to disaster on a daily basis. Our economies can't run. We have parliaments like other places. We have the judiciary like other places. We have presidents like other places. But when you look at your typical African country, look at the continent of Africa, look at our entire GDP. The 1.5 billion of us, at the very best, is 1 or 2 trillion United States dollars. Even measuring our economies, we use the currency of another country. The economy of Germany only is 2 times the economy of all the 54 African countries combined. That is how pathetic we are. And if you look at your typical African politician or civil servant, even when they steal money, they don't keep it in Africa. They have no faith in their own country. How will young people have faith in their country? How? If your thieving politician has no faith in the country that he or she is running, why should an 18-year-old have faith in that country? Why? If your typical African politician and civil servant has no education system, they are sending their children to Australia and Canada, why should a young 18-year-old have faith in our education system? Why should we have faith in our health system when if our presidents and ministers and other senior officials are sick, they go to the United States of America and even now to Saudi Arabia and Dubai? Why? Why? Have you ever heard the Prime Minister of Singapore going to hostel in some place? Yet here in Nigeria in the early 1960s, I'm told, King Fahd of Saudi Arabia came for treatment here in Nigeria. It came here. What happened? What happened that no longer happens? What happened that there used to be a major leather factory in Kaduna and Nigeria was known for producing leather? What happened that today 3/4 of all of you who are present here are wearing shoes which is made in Italy? Except you. What happened that the tables that we are sitting here on, all these tables are imported from China, including the fake flowers? What happened? And I'm saying we are here for serious business because serious jobs are then not created here, they are created elsewhere. The best we can do is for somebody to open an event company at which they then import from China and they come here and charge 1 million naira. That is the only job they can create. Meanwhile, jobs for millions are created in China. That is the reality. That is the reality. It gladdens my heart when you, Governor, are described in favorable terms as having tried to do something. But one swallow does not make a summer. You cannot water the desert with a teaspoon. Your contribution must be upscaled so that it becomes Nigerian. Nigerians are some of the best dressed men and women in the world. But do you know that Nigerian women spend 34 billion United States dollars to import fake hair from Brazil? Do you know? And do you know that that is bigger than the GDP, 1 year GDP of Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and Seychelles combined on fake hair only? Can't we make them here? Can't we? I will not be surprised that even this thing is from China. So I'm saying that it all is in the mind. So in order to solve this problem, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that we must do is to sanitize our politics. Let us not run away from it. Dr. Chibo, we cannot avoid. That is the elephant in the room. Because history has demonstrated. The good ambassador here, Sani, was telling me he was the envoy of Nigeria to Vietnam. All of you who are slightly older here will know that Vietnam was bombed to the ground. Ho Chi Minh City bombed to the ground. The Americans used Agent Orange to destroy their soil. Because of focused, dedicated, patriotic political leaders. What happened? Today, Vietnam is one of the leading producers of apparels. Today, Vietnam rivals Kenya and Uganda combined in production of coffee. Today, the GDP of Vietnam is bigger than all East African countries combined. What did it take? Political hygiene. Mauritius, with a population of only 1.8 million, every African now wants to have an office address in Port Louis in Mauritius. What did it take? Sound politics, dedicated politics. Singapore, and many of you here have read Lee Kuan Yew's from first world to third, from third world to first world. What did it take? When Singapore was expelled from the Malaysian Federation, its obituary was written. What did he do? He said, we are going to make it work. It is working. Sound politics. Because politics create the oxygen. Good politics create the oxygen from which the economy breathes. When the economy breathes, then things begin to happen. Mindsets begin to change. You begin to create opportunities at home. Do you know we import fish from China? Do you know we import chicken from Brazil? Do you know in my hotel, I looked at the milk that was provided to me. It is called Hollandia. Do you know it is a Coca-Cola product? Here in Nigeria, in Abuja, milk in my hotel in Abuja, Hollandia, Coca-Cola, the United States. Did the cows in Nigeria forget how to produce milk? Why do I say this? Because the jobs are then created elsewhere and young men must jump up. Because here what we are doing is to consume only. Look at the water industry in Africa today. Water that we drink. I'm happy that the bottles on our desk are not have not been bought by Coca-Cola. But that is only for now. Coca-Cola is buying all water companies across the continent. And Nestle. And here we are, praying and fasting. For how long shall we pray and fast? While the divine instruction was, go ye and subdue the earth. We have allowed the earth to subdue us. So clean your politics first. Create an environment where you young men and women can think, as Doctor said. Then begin to feed yourself. All revolutions have started with the agrarian revolution. Today, you come to Africa, the palm wine that was originally here in Nigeria, one of the largest producers of palm wine in the world is now Malaysia. Not Nigeria. Nigerians still come to weddings with these dirty jerrycans because they have not packaged palm wine. Yet Nigerians are some of the most educated people on earth. And not only Nigerians, Kenyans, Ugandans, Tanzanians, Ghanaians, all of us have sinned and fallen short of the expectation of our Creator. Suppose how many jobs could be created if we got our agriculture right? How many jobs could be created if we got our fishing right? Why would a young 18-year-old boy and girl want to go to be a household in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or a medical doctor in an old people's home in Germany? Why? It is because there are no opportunities. Create opportunities, and agriculture is one of them. Then research and development. In Africa, I'm happy today that this particular function is not sponsored by the usual suspects. You go to any typical African meeting, it is GIZ, it is UKA, it is CEDAR Sweden, it is CEDAR Canada, it is the European Union. I'm very happy you did not do that. Even the things that we can do, we don't allow them to do. You know, we can do it. You know, last night, when I was watching news and I saw that one of Africa's entrepreneurs, Aliko Dangote, had gone to my Maiduguri and donated 1 billion. I said, this is it. This is it. Not some English musician coming there with $100,000. An African Nigerian went to my Maiduguri and said, 1 billion naira I donated. Where has he made his money? Here in Nigeria. It means that dollars can be made in Nigeria. If dollars can be made in Nigeria, why are we running away to other parts of the world? You now have a refinery run by a Nigerian. Good thing. When I came here from Lagos, I flew Air Peace. Good. The only thing that I want is that we now have our own planes in the next 20 years. It will not be Boeing and Airbus. Ibom Air, I flew it once to Akwa Ibom, to Uyo. Good. When you do that, then the jobs will be created here. Then our universities will stop being glorified high schools whose only claim to fame is to graduate people who know very little. Research and development. This is what will stem Japa. And it is our duty to speak to our leaders candidly. in the hope that they will understand and appreciate, because what we now have in Africa is not sustainable until and unless we address it. So I've talked about the other solution is to have clear policy guidelines which are then implemented. You know, one of Africa's greatest claim to fame is coming up with the treaties and policies and protocols, which we then honor and breach. I believe that if Africa is to ensure that we will regulate migration, and we already have an African protocol for regulation of migration, it runs from the year 2018 to 2030. Those of you who did not know about it, there is actually a framework that runs from 2018 to 2030. But how many people in this room know about it? We don't. And if we do that and we allow intra-African trade, then jobs will be created here. Right now, and I may be wrong by a few percentage points, if you go to Europe now, intra-European trade is at about 70%. The good ambassador from Belgium may correct me, but just about 70%. If you go to North America, it's just about 68%. If you go to Asia, it's about 65% now. If you go to Latin America, it's about 45%. If you go to the Pacific, it's about 60%. Intra-African trade is anything between 18 and 20% intra-African trade. So that if you go to a restaurant in Abidjan, you go to a restaurant in Abuja, you go to a restaurant in Lagos, the coffee that we are consuming is Nescafe from Nestle in Switzerland. The tea that you are drinking is Lipton from the United Kingdom, which does not have a single bush of tea. The tea has been imported from Kenya, Pakistan, or Ceylon, and has been packaged. And when you are in Abuja, you are saying, I'm drinking Liptons. Why can't you import tea from Kenya? Why can't we import tea from Uganda? Why can't we import cocoa from Ghana? Why can't we import leather from Nigeria? Why can't we import cotton from Malawi? Why can't we import chicken and beef from Botswana? Because if we do so, we'll create jobs in the continent of Africa, and nobody will run away to Europe and America. The time is now for us to think and think seriously as a people. You know, one of my greatest fears as an African is this, that if we are not very careful, Africa will be recolonized again. A Zambian nationalist called Simon Kapwepwe, who was a minister in Kaunda's first cabinet, said, the people who have gone away as our former colonizers will come back. And if we are not organized, they'll come back as donors or investors. But they will control us. And once they control us, as the good doctor said, Africa will continue to play the role that it did in those years. During the days of slavery, there was Japa, but it was involuntary Japa. Millions of us were taken to the Caribbean. That was Japa of a different kind. They are to be found in the Caribbean, they are to be found in the United States of America. Today, our young men and women in the middle class, when your wife is expectant, what do? You send them to Minnesota in the United States so that the child may be born in the United States of America to become an American citizen, not Nigeria, no. Why? That we continue to play the same menial roles. You know, this jumper will continue, but I'm talking about my fear. Even the things we can do, we don't do. You travel in different parts of Nigeria. I land at Murtala Mohammed Airport. What do I see? The planes bearing the logo of DHL. DHL is the German postal services. We can't run post offices in Africa. And they are to be found everywhere in Africa. When you have DHL, where are the jobs created? In Germany, not in Nairobi, not in Nigeria, not in Ghana. I go to a hotel, Marriott in Lagos. There are Nigerians who meet me at the door are wearing shirts bearing G4S. British company coming to employ security men here. Can we run our security? Can't we? When I'm traveling around here and I go to Uyo or even here in Abuja, who is winning the contracts? I mean no harm. Julius Berger. Don't we have engineers? Who built your stadium here? Chinese. Don't we have Dangote cement here? Can't we build them? If I want to eat chicken, it is Kentucky Fried Chicken, not Katsina Fried Chicken. Why? If I want anything, a taxi here, it is Uber from San Francisco or Bolt from Lithuania. If I want to get fuel in Nigeria, apart from a sprinkling of few others, it is Total Energy from France. If I want to deliver an item, it is Globo from Spain. Why can't young people jump? Because the jobs are created there. And I must now conclude because it's too much. So I'm saying today that we have a duty to ask ourselves fundamental questions. You know, my wife is present here, and when you were flying, I told her that Africa needs to hold 3 major meetings in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. 3. Meeting number 1, with only a single agenda item. What is wrong with us? That's agenda item number 1. What is wrong with us? Because something definitely is wrong with the way we are doing things. Then we go away to reflect. Then we come again for agenda item number 2. What can we do about it? Then we go away and come for agenda item number 3. Within what time should we do it? Because it has been done. When we talk about Japa, and the good doctor said it correctly, Japa, this innocent Yoruba word, has now acquired different shades of meaning, but the proper meaning is that it means all migration. But the one that we are talking about and against is irregular migration. Ban Ki-moon, who was a former Secretary General of the United Nations Organization, said that migration has been the mother's milk of human civilization. I don't disagree at all. It has been. I know countries that allow for regular migration of labor even at the lowest level. Philippines is one of them. It allows even house help to go to the Arab world. But they know each one of them. If you have the Nigerian government, the Kenyan government, the Ghanaian government, how many of your nationals are in the United Kingdom? They do not know. They go to the International Organization for Migration and they get statistics there. From a researcher who was possibly an undergraduate student at the university in Oxford, who came here and collected some data which is not even verified, and that is what we all go with at conference and say, IOM says, we must style up. Because it is only when we style up that we'll be respected. And I'm suggesting that an organization such as this, and I'm very glad that the Honorable Minister is here. I'm glad, Honorable Minister. Because, Honorable Minister, you came earlier than everybody else, and Honorable Minister, you went for another engagement, and Honorable Minister, you came back. Your typical African minister does not do that. Your typical African minister would have come, would have spoken first, then would have had a photo opportunity, then he disappears. But you are here to listen to this unpleasant information because we are saying it with love for our country, with love for our continent. And you know, I want to conclude with this, and I've said it here in Nigeria and outside. As long as Nigeria does not get it right, Africa will never get it right. That is a fact. 1 out of every 5 African is Nigerian. Is Nigerian. If you go to hostels in the United States of America, you go to the United Kingdom and other places, they are all led, or most of them led by Nigerians. Even Nigerian politicians and civil servants who japa for medical services, they go there and they find Nzobi. Isako or Sali. They discover the same Nigerians who are treating them, but in a different setting. Why do the doctors go there? Because the environment is hostile. Nigeria must get it right, and Nigeria can get it right. And there are examples. I've traveled, I've had the fortune of traveling across Nigeria. I was telling my Kenyan politicians who love to go to China for benchmarking for roads, I told them go to Uyo. Go to Akwa Ibom and see roads. Come to Abuja and see roads which are done well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to discuss an important and solemn subject. It gladdens my heart. Many of for the 18s and 35s, the great Chinua Achebe once said, where are the young suckers that will grow when the old bananas die? Most of the people sitting here in front, these are old bananas. But their joy is that they are young suckers. Their joy is that they have gone through spaces. The honorable ambassadors who are here have had the advantage and fortune. The honorable governor, the honorable minister, my good friend from Belgium, will say that they were also jabbering. The Belgians. They jabbered here. And if you go to Belgium, they were jabbering for their country. They came here and took things from Africa here to make, if you go, and excuse me for being candid, honorable person. If you go to Brussels now, they came here and they did it for their country. If you go to Antwerp now, the price of a diamond is still set in Antwerp. Why? Because they were doing it for their country. Not that I like what they did, I don't. but at least they were selfish enough to do it for their country. You will never hear a Belgian stealing money from Brussels and keeping in Abuja. But we steal money in the Democratic Republic of Congo and keep it in Brussels in numbered accounts, which even your wife or husband does not know. When you die, they are the only ones who know. So, ladies and gentlemen, my desire is that Nigeria succeeds. This anthem that you sang, is it the new one or the old one? But I love this anthem because it is saying the tribe or differences does not matter, we are one Nigeria. Diversity of Nigeria, 300 and something different peoples who, if they come together, Nigeria should not import food. And the day Nigeria stops importing food, there will be a millions of jobs here. Nigerians will not Japan. The day we have water in every home in Nigeria, we will have the planners that he was talking about at level number 1. The day Nigeria gets it right, we'll have people talking about the 4th industrial revolution and artificial intelligence. One of the things that is happening in Nigeria now, look at the Nigerian banks in Africa. Access, UB, GTZ. You are succeeding in that area. Look at the area of fintech. Nigeria is doing something, but Nigerians must know that your GDP of 500 billion, never talk about it. Never talk about your GDP being 500 billion. It is a shame. Keep it quiet until in 5 years your GDP is 2 trillion. Then you can begin talking. Because that is what Nigeria can do to the rest of us. Once you are 2 trillion, then you begin to talk. Then we begin to, Nigeria can then become the anchor of West Africa. And when Nigeria becomes the anchor of West Africa, there will be no Japa in West Africa. When South Africa becomes the anchor of Southern Africa, there will be no Japa from Southern Africa. When the Democratic Republic of Congo becomes the anchor of Central Africa, there will be no Japa from Central Africa. When Egypt and Morocco become the anchors, there will be no Japa from the Maghreb. When Kenya and Uganda and Ethiopia and Tanzania become the anchors, there will be no Japa from East Africa, and Africa will become a respectable continent because we'll have solved all our problems. But of course, not all problems can be solved. Most of our nagging problems, and our young people will be proud to be in the continent of Africa, dignified. And that dignity is what will make Africa to be respected throughout the world. Thank you very much.
Corruption in Nigeria is a deeply entrenched problem stemming from a combination of historical, political, economic, and social factors. Here is an explanation of why corruption is so pervasive in Nigeria. Number 1, historical legacy of colonialism. During British colonial rule, Nigeria's administrative structures were designed to extract resources for the benefit of the colonial power. The British used indirect rule, where local elites and chiefs were empowered to maintain order and collect tax, often with little accountability. This system created an environment where power was centralized and could be easily abused, laying the groundwork for post-colonial corruption. After independence in 1960, these structures were inherited by Nigerian leaders who continued to exploit the lack of transparency for personal gain. At number 2, we have oil wealth and rent-seeking. Nigeria's discovery of oil in the late 1950s transformed the country into one of the world's largest oil producers, but it also fueled corruption. Oil became the dominant source of government revenue, leading to the rise of wealth-seeking behavior, where individuals and elites seek to gain control of the oil wealth without contributing to productive activities. Because the oil sector is highly lucrative, political elites often compete to control oil revenues, leading to bribery, embezzlement, and mismanagement. Oil wealth also fosters resource dependency, which discourage investment in other sectors like agriculture or manufacturing, exacerbating corruption. 3. Weak institution. Nigeria's institutions such as the judiciary, law enforcement, and regulatory bodies are often weak, underfunded, or politically compromised. At number 4, we have patronage and clientelism. Nigeria's political system is heavily influenced by patronage networks, where politicians use public resources to reward supporters, friends, and family. The clientelist system operates through the exchange of favors such as jobs, contracts, and government appointment in return for political loyalty. 5. Ethnic and regional divisions. Nigeria is a highly diverse country with over 250 ethnic groups and sharp regional differences. Politicians often exploit these divisions by using ethnic and regional loyalties to maintain power. In many cases, political leaders use public resources to benefit their ethnic or regional groups, exacerbating inequality and further entrenching corruption. 6. Political instability and military rule. Since independence, Nigeria has experienced a period of military rule and political instability, particularly from the 1960s to the 1990s. Military regimes often lack transparency and accountability, allowing corruption to flourish unchecked. 7. Poverty and economic inequality. Nigeria is home to vast wealth from its oil resources, yet the majority of the population lives in poverty. High level of poverty and inequality create an environment where corruption becomes a survival strategy. People at lower levels of the social and economic ladder may engage in corrupt practices, such as paying bribes to secure basic services because they see it as their only option to navigate a system stacked against them. 8. Lack of transparency and accountability. Corruption thrives in environments where there is limited transparency and accountability. In Nigeria, public officials often operate without adequate oversight and government finance and frequently opaque. Mismanagement of public funds, inflated contracts, and lack of scrutiny in procurement processes all contribute to a culture of corruption. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.